the $100 trillion debt. Inside the UN's historic reparations vote. On March 25, 2026, the world changed in a room in New York. You might have missed it in the 24-hour news cycle, but for the first time in history, the United Nations General Assembly officially labeled the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. But this wasn't just a change in vocabulary, it was a formal call for reparations. 123 countries said yes, only 3 said no, and 52 stood in the middle. Today we're breaking down why this resolution happened now, why the world's most powerful nations are divided, and the staggering numbers, reaching into the trillions, that are now on the table. What the resolution actually says. Spearheaded by Ghana and the African Union, this resolution does 3 massive things. First, it creates a legal and moral baseline. By calling it the gravest crime, it moves the slave trade from a dark chapter of history to an active legal precedent. Second, it targets stolen heritage. We're talking about the return of cultural artifacts, monuments, and national archives currently sitting in Western museums without charge. Third, and most controversially, it demands good faith dialogue on reparations. This includes formal apologies, debt cancellation, and financial compensation. This is a safeguard against forgetting, Mahama stated, affirming that this is about restoring human dignity. The cost, $100 trillion in the GDP of nations. How much is justice worth? For decades, economists and historians have tried to put a price on 400 years of stolen labor. The numbers are astronomical. A landmark study known as the Brattle Report estimates that the aggregate sum of reparations owed by former slaveholding states is a staggering $107.8 trillion. To put that in perspective, the UK's share, estimated at $24 trillion, 18.6 trillion pounds, which is more than 5 times the country's entire annual GDP. The U.S. share, estimates for forced labor and compounded interest alone reach $100 trillion, according to some historical models. Critics call these numbers a radical threat to global fiscal stability. But proponents point out that when Britain abolished slavery in 1833, they paid £20 million in compensation, not to the enslaved, but to the slave owners. That debt was so large it wasn't fully paid off by British taxpayers until 2015. The resistance, 123 versus 3. So why the pushback? The no votes came from the United States, Israel, and Argentina. The U.S. argument rests on a legal principle called non-retroactivity. Their representative argued that you cannot legally enforce reparations for acts that weren't illegal under international law at the time they occurred. They aren't just saying no to the money, they are saying no to the legal precedent. Then you have the abstentions. The UK and the EU didn't vote no, but they wouldn't say yes. Their concern, a hierarchy of crimes. They argue that labeling one event as the gravest diminishes other tragedies like the Holocaust. But to the African Union, this isn't a competition of pain. It's a recognition of a systemic machine that redesigned the entire global economy around racialized labor. The Decade of Reparations, 2026 to 2036. This resolution isn't the end, it's the starting gun. The African Union has officially declared 2026 to 2036 as the Decade of Reparations. This decade will focus on institutionalizing these demands. It's not just about direct cash payments. The CARICOM 10-point plan includes debt cancellation for developing nations, technology transfers to bridge the digital divide, investment in public health and education systems. Conclusion: the moral compass. Whether this resolution leads to trillion-dollar transfers or remains a symbolic gesture depends on the next 10 years. But one thing is clear: the global conversation on history is no longer being written only by the victors. Is it time to pay the debt, or is the past too far gone to fix? Let us know in the comments.